to the cloud.
Just wanted to wave and say I'm actually here. There we go.
Okay, good. Yeah, so that should be recording now. And then share my screen because it didn't share. This one. All right, so we should be all on the same dock here. Are you able to see my screen now?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I guess the best way to go through is we'll just go from the top down, and we can do some emoji voting. That's often what works. I don't know if everybody has access to the Dropbox doc right now, the paper doc here. Because if you don't, you won't be able to add emojis. So just before we do, does everybody have that access to be able to do that? Oops, where's the call gone to? Does anyone not have access to Dropbox, the paper doc? It's up right now.
I think this one's been shared before, and everyone should have access to it. I just dropped a link in the chat for anybody
cool.
if they need it that way.
Thanks, much appreciated. And okay, so we'll just go from the top down, and maybe we could read them out, get a little bit of like a understanding of what it's about, and then after we've gone through them all, then add the votes. How's that sound? Okay, silence must be everything's okay. All right. So, okay, so the first one from the top: manage, support, community built decentralized Radix. I know this is something when I attended that other governance call, that was something that came up then. Is there anything around this that needs to be discussed further than what was discussed on that call? I don't know if there's been changes since that time. Jason, do you have any updates on the Radix? I know that was something you were looking at and interested in.
Yeah, I think this one keeps coming up because one of the bigger challenges for developers at this point is being able to share data between applications. So Radix and collections kind of tie in together. So being able to have a multiplayer app is somewhat difficult given the current infrastructure. But the actual idea behind it and what's been worked on, I don't think there's been any actual updates to it in a little while, but I know it was Hank's project, his baby, for quite a bit as well. And it's just something that people really wanted to see come together. So aside from that, I don't have any other updates on that particular project.
Okay. And so Radix and collections, did you see them like they'd be a part of one grant proposal or separate?
That's an interesting question, and I would probably defer that to an app founder or somebody who could better describe their exact situation they're going through, because I think collections is more like a schema for data. So, you know, we're just saying that we want, if I'm going to have a note, for example, and I want to be able to move that note between NoteRiot and pNotes, then they should both have a similar structure. So it's really easy to move my data between applications.
Right.
So I think they're definitely two bigger topics and they can be separate, but I think they definitely play well together. I mean, when we're talking about a multiplayer app or something else, it would be like, hey, I use that format too. So I would keep them separate is my inclination, but I don't know if I would be the best person to answer for that as well.
Okay. Anyone else want
to add? I'll jump.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is Juliet. I'll jump in here on this. And I think they're really together. As far as a grant proposal, they should be together. The only thing, the difference that I see based on past discussions amongst app founders is that it's depending on the language that's used, and that some prefer collections over Radix, the idea of collections over Radix. So I think they're a part and parcel of the same thing. But then again, it's something that we have to come to a decision about which direction we're going forward towards, whether it's Radix or collections, and that needs some more community input as far as this particular, or these line items. Sorry, that made it as clear as mud, I guess.
That's all good. So do you think I should add another point, manage the support community, build decentralized collections and Radix, like on one line? Be a separate vote?
Yeah. Yeah, why don't we, I think that might be a good idea. But if there's anyone else who has some input on that, I'm glad to hear it.
Why is mine not pasting here? Oh, there. Looks like Jason, you're editing it right now. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
oh,
just going to throw in a few links and resources, just two things kind of related to both.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Philip wasn't able to get in. I wasn't admitting him. I forgot about that part. He should be joining now. He might have some good feedback on that too. Let's see if his mic is active. Philip, are you able to hear?
I managed to enter.
Perfect. Yeah, I had to admit you and I hadn't. That was my bad. Sorry about that. We were just talking about whether this point here of having radix and collections as part of one grant proposal, if that is the way to go. So people who are app founders, so Juliet was just talking about her experience, whether or not they'd be something that would be part of a single proposal, or if they would go in as one proposal together. So I was wondering what you thought about that.
Well, actually, we built our own radix instead of radix. You use the not because radix. The problem with that is centralized. Has a part of that is centralized. So we are using something different, and so it's a good idea to have it to really review that.
Okay, sure. Do you see it as if there was a proposal, collections would be part of it? Or do they, like, for what you've done, it just kind of like collections doesn't have to be a part of it? Jason was talking about it being like a, if you had a multiplayer kind of app, you kind of need to have both together.
Well, actually, for interaction between dApps, we are not talking about the same same dApp, but we're talking because that means in the same dApp you use the concept of sharing, because you have the share of keys and all that. You can you know the same pointers. But what happened with you another dApp like a CRM dApp? And then with that, you cannot just, so then a collection will be in a way like an orderly way to interact. But maybe a collection could be something that will be applicable to all for the same concept. So, or for the own dApp, but also for the third-party dApps.
Right.
So this is not a bad idea to have it all integrated.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, well, sorry about, just entering and talking.
It's okay. It's okay. I was the one who let you enter late. That was my fault. So, so all I added is the third line. We can do an emoji vote on it. If people prefer to have them separate, then that's totally fine too. We'll see how the votes come out. And support community build. Okay, and then the next one here, develop proposal for new version of app mining. Anyone have thoughts on that one? Sounds like it may not be top of mind. Okay.
Hey guys, hey Ryan, this is Lane.
Hey.
Yeah, just very, very briefly on app mining. And sorry, by the way, I'm on an internet connection with very high latency, so sorry if it takes me a second to respond. Yeah, I just wanted to mention that this, has been part of our vision for this governance project since the very, very beginning, and also that it's something that came up in a lot of the one-on-one interviews we did. There was also a lot of interest expressed in this in the survey. The communities we'd have to discuss in more concrete terms what a grant proposal would look like for this, but it is, I think, something where the governance group could add a lot of value, or for that matter, anyone working on this as a grant could potentially add a lot of value.
Okay, so that's good to have background. Dan is getting in here too. So Dan's joining. There we go. Okay, hey Dan.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Not used to this admit button, but I'll get used to it. All right, so that's the app mining one. Develop contributing guidelines for GitHub repos. Let's see it was Jenny who added that. Any thoughts on that one? Is that something that is good for a grant proposal?
You know, with all the work I've been doing on the GitHub repos and stuff, I don't know. I think it makes sense that it needs to exist, but I don't know how much it would fit into a grant proposal, or it might be something small or a simple one to sort of take on and learn the process. But that one, I mean, next to some of these other items we're talking about, it should be a very simple thing to implement,
Mhm.
and it'll take a little bit of time, of course, and time should be compensated as a very limited resource that we all have. But at the same time, I'm looking at it next to these other things like, wow, that's a really small one that might be more fun to just kind of push through and test the grants process.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, yeah, if you want to use it as a test, that would be good. Maybe since it's smaller, what I'll do is just put it in italics for now. And as we're going through these, when we do the emoji voting, we'll be able to see quite quickly if something is like something that would be a good tester. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a tester, but just whether or not you want to start with something smaller or just kind of like do something bigger that might be more impactful. I don't know. That'll be up to the governance committee. So. All right, so develop Camp Evil code of conduct / manifesto for the Stacks community. Ooh, Lane, you might have thoughts on that one. Or anyone else, of course.
Well, actually, that's something very important that I'm a bit wary about. That is if we have I have seen and probably and Dan and Pascal have been faced that, also Jason, that there's many new comers to the community, and then there's something that we have to be sure that we have that beforehand, because every week we're going to get more people, and then the problem of really having and protecting the values of the community is very important. So we have to at least make an effort on that. And Lane has compiled that survey, and also he has a lot of material there. So we have to do a task. Well, here you're talking about a grant, but it may be a grant or something like that. But we have to do it anyways, and that's very important right now. The community is growing and is in a very rapid pace, and so if we don't achieve that very soon, we're going to have many problems in the near future.
Right, that makes sense.
I agree with Philip.
Yeah.
Sorry, delayed internet connection. I'm in the mountains on a satellite connection, so it's a little bad. No, Philip, thank you. I could not agree more with your point about the importance. I think that this is super critical. And I also feel, I would say the same thing about this that Jason said a moment ago about the GitHub contribution guidelines, which is to say that it's a relatively small task and some of this work has already been done. And therefore, I think it's a great candidate for an early grant because it should be relatively self-contained and relatively quick and relatively like as well.
Okay, good. Yeah, it sounds like because it would have a definite endpoint, which would be beneficial for like a tester.
Yeah, definite endpoint, as well as, I mean, as a deliverable, it's a single document and we know it can't be longer than a page or two. So like that's a great ideal candidate for a straightforward grant, just a thought.
Okay. So I'm going to put that one in italics as well, just like I did the one above, just because there could be ones that could be done more quickly and more definitively, I guess. All right, so next one, this was yours, Dan. Develop a proposal for how the group should evolve to allow wider community participation in leadership. What do you have in mind there? Hopefully his audio is working. Dan, can you hear us okay?
Sorry, yeah.
Oh, there we go.
Is there a question about that?
Yeah, just kind of going through. So we're just doing, I know you're joining later. So we're just going through these to figure out like if there's any background information before we do some emoji voting on them to see which ones will float to the top. So is this one, like when you put it in here, was this one that, like, why do you think it's something that could be good for a grant?
Yeah, I think it's something I think is important if this group is going to persist, and if the intention of this as a group kind of be leading the community is if that's the idea of what we're doing. Yeah, because I'd like to see obviously more involvement, more transparency, more sharing with the wider community, and also more inclusion and making sure we have a plan for how to get those folks involved. If the intention of this group and these early proposals is not to have something that's going to be persistent or not, you know, if we're just doing testing, this is something that could maybe be put out to, you know, this group or some other group later. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if Jason or Juliet, you added some bullet points on there. If you wanted to add anything to that, maybe. Something like, would this be good for?
Sure. So for that first bullet point I added, my main goal with that was just to get us thinking about what the actual flow of information is. Like, you know, things that we have regularly. We have this meeting. The meeting usually leads to a transcript or some kind of notes. It would lead to some kind of general update for the community, and that would be nice content that could lead into a blog post or an email newsletter or something else. So really just a note about thinking of a regular cadence that we can take content from the meetings and push it all the way through back out to the community for that same kind of wider reach. That way people who didn't attend, you know, being able to view the videos and look back at the notes has been huge, I think, for a lot of people. And I don't want that to fall off now that things are kind of changing around a bit and we're looking at structure type things. So that's my background for that one.
So kind of creating a formalized process for these meetings so they can continue. Is that what you're saying as well?
Yeah, and some of that is kind of like we've been doing in the GitHub issues, right? Like we've tried to establish the difference between action items and discussion items and things we can act on in the meetings. We've had a sort of regular update cadence that fell off early on, but it used to be, you know, the meeting, we would get the video link up, we would get the note link up, we would get any documents shared on the meeting as part of something so people could easily look back. And then the next step was to publish some sort of update, and that would be like a high-level overview of this is what happened in the meeting, and that would be a nice thing to share with the community for those who couldn't attend or don't want to watch the video or go back. So yeah, just some kind of normal, almost like a marketing plan or regular thing that happens alongside the meetings to make sure that it's accessible to as many people as possible.
I guess that falls into what you had written there, Juliet, the transparency.
Yeah, transparency and also structure. I think that that's something that it provides structure where we have the agenda, we have the meeting, we then provide the update that goes into a blog post or something that gets out to the community so they know exactly what we're doing. And if that falls off, then we're not going to be able to get community participation. And what I've seen recently is there's so many changes happening that structure seems to have disappeared. And so one of the goals of the last meeting last week that I couldn't be a part of was that to bring voices from the community into this particular group so that we could hear what do people actually want to see developed by this group or a grant proposal by this group that is really going to support the community. And so having structure like this, like Jason talked about, this is just super important for us. So that's my 2 bits on it.
Yeah, important for sure. Okay. I don't want to be biased here, though, but because I'm not part of this committee, right? So, all right. So it's good to have that one. Okay. So then the next one. Oh,
that's good.
What was that, Philip? You were breaking up there. Did you say, "Oh, that's good"?
That's good. That's good. You have a fresh mind on this. So.
Yeah. No, I'm just coming in for Jenny here, right? So, all right. So the next one: organize a governance hackathon. Elaine, do you want to speak to that one?
Sure. I mean, it's fairly self-explanatory, but very, very briefly, I like hackathons. We all like hackathons. They're relatively, I mean, you know, this is clearly like an online thing, which means it's pretty low touch. It's pretty cheap. It's not that difficult to get these things together. I don't think they require a great deal of logistics or planning or marketing. I mean, it needs some, obviously, but there's also some platforms that exist to make this pretty straightforward. We've seen a number of these governance themed hackathons happen in the kind of broader blockchain and Ethereum community. And there are communities like Gitcoin is a good example that have facilitated organizing these types of events before. And I don't know. I mean, I think that there are elements of the Blockstack platform that lend themselves quite well to building these sorts of tools. And I think that, you know, we have a lot of experimentation happening with things like DAOs and some of the things I mentioned in the next bullet point here, that it would be really exciting to bring into the Stacks ecosystem as well, especially given, you know, the launch of Stacks 2.0 and the Clarity language. And
That makes sense. Any other thoughts on doing a hackathon for governance or around governance?
by the way, it doesn't have to be governance themed. It could just be, you know, there could be other types of hackathons, or the first one doesn't have to have a specific theme necessarily.
Sure. Okay, cool.
Hey, Lane, just a quick question. Have you done a governance hackathon? I know you said it doesn't have to be governance, but have you done a governance hackathon before? Like, is there something I could go back and look at? Just curious.
Kind of, yes. The answer is like sort of. Let me follow up offline and I will find some examples to send to you. That's a good question. And I can share with the group as well.
Cool. Yeah, if you post in the governance Discord channel there, that'd be good. Well, we got one emoji vote there. See, that's good. Okay, and then so we'll pop on down to Dan. Your next one there, fund development for Gaia Hub inboxes.
Yeah, this was something mentioned by Friedger when I think we talked about it in the Discord. He pointed back to his R2, I guess, a discussion initiated by Aaron a long time ago. This is just a feature, development feature, semi-related to the next bullet point.
So was the next bullet point the one that you were more thinking when you?
Well, the first bullet, the Gaia Hub inboxes, I just wanted to capture Friedger's feedback since he hadn't added it to
I gotcha.
document. He just put it into the Discord. I wanted to make sure we captured it, that community input. Yeah, but semi-related, or I guess very, very much related. I mentioned somewhere else, I think user profiles are.
It's the bullet right below there.
Yeah, user profiles are kind of lacking right now. And with the new version of Connect, we've kind of moved away from giving users the ability to update profiles if they want to personalize. There's no. We've taken away all the features from the Blockstack browser related to identity, right? So simplifies things a great deal, but from feedback I've heard, there's a desire to have some sort of profile management. And again, this is a development item. I've tried to talk to a few people about how important this is to them. I think we've got users who want to add their profiles, and we've got developers who'd like to enable some level of personalization in their apps.
Mm-hmm.
So the inboxes could be part of that. It could be profiles plus one. But right now, I'm personally, even outside this group, trying to kind of marshal some support around having profiles and what they might look like. And I think essentially replicating what's already existing. And I'll be opening up a GitHub issue, and then and asking everybody who's interested to make sure they put their input into that. And then I think this is something like for later. This,
Right. So maybe not necessarily for this grant
Yeah.
specifically. Is that what you're thinking? Like it's a longer term.
Yes.
Okay, cool. All right, so then I'm going to, because the other ones that were short ones, I put in italics, so I'll put this one in bold, just so we've got some sort of differentiation here. And then, all right, so the last two here, Harold, you had them added here. Do you want to speak to them?
Yeah, sure. So the first one here is a support for a path to decentralized and distributed governance network. Again, maybe another long-term option that we have for this grants proposal list. And the idea behind it is similar to ideas that I've brought here in the past, but a little bit more broad than the specific ideas that I had before. And it's generally there. I think it's important that this governance working group has its own distributed qualities, and I think that there could be some support for this sentiment, right? To be able to establish, a global network, very, less centralized than we are today in the future. And I think that there's been some mention in the SIP process documentation of deploying blockchains and seeing which models for blockchains are sufficient or not based on whether or not the blockchain is self-sufficient. So I think that may be something to combine with, like I said, this more long-term effort to be able to vet out, which grants, should continue, to get support, or which ones have kind of ran their course and didn't work out. And then the second bullet I have after that is another reference to Friedger and some things that we've been mulling over in this group for communication, modes of communication. I remember Friedger mentioning that, if we don't support, open source versions of communication, rather than, settling for Zoom or some of the Web 2 options that we have, then these things never move along, right? So I think it seems like a good opportunity to support some of the work that Friedger's already done with his OI chat, right? Just putting Blockstack off onto a polished chat client that I know that the Matrix community uses for their community meetings, monthly or weekly, whatever it is. So yeah, those are my 2 bullets there. Happy to hear any thoughts on that first or second point as well.
One comment about the support for Web3 or stack-based communication that is mentioned there. Probably is the something that we can do under the concept of microservices. That concept is very now spread out in the internet development area. Especially Netflix have developed their own a protocol in order to define those APIs for microservices. And I have not been able to evaluate the similarity with the Stacks platform in terms of how the Stacks could be the way to distribute these microservices. And so then instead of having this other stuff of microservices and then have as the Stacks node as a way to enter the microservices. So that's something that could be probably trying to understand what Friedger is thinking, because he's based on the microservices and in a way, not explicitly, but he's talking about communications and all that, and so that could be interesting, at least in terms of research. It could be interesting way to stimulate, and because that's something that if we address that, it will be wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think Friedger, as of now, I don't know if it's changed, but it's like $1 per user for the server support from the Matrix home servers. But I've mentioned before too as well that Jude has mentioned the possibilities with POX for in-browser servers with just contracts, being able to pioneer a new server infrastructure. So that, in combination with some of the pioneering work Matrix community has done, may also, in combination with what you said, Philip, may also be important research to support here.
Okay, cool. Thank you for summarizing those ones there. All right, I guess so then with that, I'm at the bottom of the list. I do have, because you can still see my screen here, I got the thread from the forum where people were adding things as well. So here's Frieder's important things. Juliet's got Radix and collections, which is already in the doc. And then Brad added financial programs contributing to Stack's development. Mostly just ideas for further exploration, the way I'm reading it. But I don't know if anybody wants to speak to what Brad was talking about here. I don't know if they were part of those conversations with him or if this is just an idea he posted on this thread quickly, or I don't know. Okay.
Ryan, what are you seeing this?
Where am I seeing it? On this on my screen share? If you can see that, but you're on the phone, right? It looks like.
Yeah,
So,
but I'm also looking at it, looking at the doc itself. It's on your screen share. Hang on.
yeah. So it's on. It's in the forum, so that's why I'll put the link in the chat. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, where is chat? There's so many buttons when you're an admin on one of these fancy accounts. Okay, there we go. This is Jenny's account for community stuff. So just getting used to it here. But that's, yeah, I just posted in the chat there. So you can see it there. But also on the screen share. Hopefully, as long as that's still sharing.
Yes, it's still on the screen.
Okay, good. But yeah, so we can talk about those things too, if those are something that, like, I could copy them over to the main doc as well, if that is of interest. Yeah, I don't know much about these two ideas or that Brad's talking about. He's not here, so yeah, that's kind of where that's at. But we can move them over if anyone wants to. Like, what do you think as a group? Should I copy them over?
I think the more information we have in one place, the better. So I don't know if I'm a little against the Dropbox paper as like the place to go, but right now it has become that. So at the very least, I think at least we'll have a representation of everything in one place. And you know, it's funny when we're talking about emoji voting and kind of deciding over these things. I can tell that, you know, there's 2 hearts for Radix collections, 5 hearts for the GaiaHub inboxes. I'm not sure if we can see who those are from on the forum or anything else, but obviously people have expressed some interest in those items as well.
Yeah, I can see that actually, yes. 5 people like this post, so let me see if I can. There we go. So we've got
okay, so some of us that are here.
Yeah, Juliet, Dan, yep, exactly. But some people might have seen this post and not seen Juliet's, kind of thing. Like, there's 5 days apart, right? So it's not, it's good to have the conversation regardless of the votes in the forum. So, but yeah, okay, so just gonna, these are Brad's ideas. Okay. Okay, cool. So I'll just add those in here so we could do the emoji votes on here, since it is the central place at this moment where we're doing all this. Yeah, so, I mean, emoji voting, it doesn't have to be done that way. This is something that Blackstock PBC does often. So it's just something that works. If you guys want to vote in a different way, it's your committee. So it's really up to you. If you want to like duke it out in a like debate, that's really up to you. What do you think?
I missed the discussion on Radix. Was there anyone in favor of that? The Radix development? No.
That was Jason was talking about that earlier on.
Yeah. So the point there, or the thing that we were considering, and why there's a third bullet point now for the 2 together, is one of the questions that came up is, will we consider Radix and collections to be one and the same, like something we should go for a grant for both? Or do we see them as being separate? My vote is for separate, but we had a few people voice that it would make sense to put it together as well. So if you have an opinion on that. Otherwise, I see it as something that people definitely want. So that's one that I will voice that I think is definitely one that I would like to see things work toward, because that whole ability for multiplayer adapts is a big game changer in a lot of what we're doing.
Yeah,
And despite my wanting them to be separate, I supported the decentralized collections. So I agree with both Philip and Jason and their comments.
Other comments there?
Oh, just comments when they were talking earlier, I think she means.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think those personally should be separate, but also I think there's a larger question about how much Stacks 2.0 can replace Radix that I think haven't been answered yet. There are certainly things you can do in Stacks 2.0 that would mitigate the need for Radix for some use cases, and I don't know that we understand those completely. That'd be my caution.
So maybe there needs to be more research on Radix. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah.
And that could be another bullet point on a grant proposal on research on Radix, as opposed to fully going into a grant proposal for building a decentralized Radix now, that perhaps there needs to be a grant proposal for research on Radix, and then I would also throw in collections as well. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds good.
Okay, so I'll add that in. Research on Radix. Collections, I'll just put post Stacks 2. Post Stacks 2.0. Okay, cool. So that's there. So probably a good time to emoji vote. Juliet, you have access to be able to do that, even though you're just calling in, right? You can still. Yeah, you did. Okay, you added one before. Okay, good. But yeah, so if you want to take a couple minutes and then pop your emojis, say maybe each person has 3, and then we'll see where it ends up. So take a couple minutes to do that. I will mute.
Does it matter which emoji we use? Should we try to use unique ones, or it doesn't?
Just be consistent, like as long as you use the same one, so it's easier to tell which ones you voted for, so other people can see that as well. Okay, let's leave one more minute. Does anybody not have any votes? 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like not everybody might have put an emoji.
I'm not being able to put anything there.
I think if you push colon, it should just start populating them. Yeah.
I would do color. Okay, color.
Okay.
Did you say that we get 3 votes?
Yeah, 3. I mean, that's the ideal because we're trying to come up with 2 or 3 top ones to move to the next, like to actually get
Okay.
into the grant, right? So choose your top
All
2
right.
or 3. All right, so keep your voting going if you're doing that. I'm just gonna take the emojis from the ends of the sentences and put them to the beginning so they're easier to compare. So if I accidentally cut yours off, I am sorry. Just please put it where it should be. There's definitely some clear couple ones there, aren't there? Okay, almost at the end here. This one. Does anybody have any outstanding emojis to use? I mean, if you don't want to use them all, and you're just like a super fan, then you don't have to use them all. You just like 2 of them only or whatever. Oh, who's check mark here?
That was mine, and that was for the Gaia Hub inboxes.
Okay, cool. So just make sure to put it in the right spot. Okay. There we go. Okay, so then pencils down or emojis down, I guess. So, and Philip, you got yours there. Okay, good. So it looks like the top ones, it's a tie. There's
How
4,
many can you use? 3 or
3. 3, yeah.
Oh, okay. I over.
Yeah, you got too many, so
Yeah.
you're like, I love everything.
Yeah. All
So
right.
are the ones?
I think that the two first ones are not. I'm going to take them out.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, do you want them on these ones that have 4? Because that'll be a decider, really. What do you think, Phil?
Well, the contributing guideline for GitHub repos, that's something that we have to make it happen. But it's a small one, isn't it?
Yeah, that's why it's in italics there, because it's something that's could be done more
Yeah. So,
quickly.
but I will maintain that, and then develop proposal new version of mining will be more complicated. So that you can take that out from.
Okay, so you got 1, 2, 3. There you go. Okay, so there's our final vote here. So I think I can underline, right? No, highlight. That's what I'll do. So we got a top 2 for sure. And is there a close third? This one here.
Ryan, can you
All right. I can, yes.
Thank you.
No problem. But I know for this call, that's what Jenny wanted to make sure we got through, was to figure out a top 2 or 3 to go through the next steps for doing the grant proposal itself. The italic one here, for those who weren't here at that point, I put it in italics because it was something that was discussed as something that could be done more quickly, and it has a more definitive ending. So it could be a good tester. I'll add that as a comment here. Okay, cool. Any other last thoughts on any of this? Or anyone want to make like, oh, we need to do this one more, last ditch promoting of certain ones that you're really interested in? Okay, cool. Sounds like we are good to go then. And Jenny is looking at it right now. Ooh, okay, good. That's good. So then I know from what she was saying, I'll just make sure and go back to Discord to her post there. Make sure we got everything she wanted to get done, sorted out here. So 2 or 3. These are those by the end of the meeting. Yep, I think that's good. and she says she'll take the lead going forward. Figure out an outline and then get a draft proposal review by the 26th. That's where that's at. I don't know, is there anything else anyone wanted to add? Or I don't know if Brittany, is there anything else you wanted to add after listening in?
No, I think this was a productive call. I think, you know, the next steps are about just kind of drafting the proposal. I know that Jenny has kind of taken it on as a volunteer, but if other people want to be more involved, I think she's very open and encouraging of that, so that, you know, this is like a community initiative. This is the community, and everyone's input is really valuable. But like getting it, that last 20% over the line, I think is the key piece. Yeah, if you want to get more involved with that, just message in the chat or link up with Jenny, because I know she's kind of helping lead the charge right now.
Perfect. Well, that sounds good. Well, I guess with that is where we need to get to by the end of the meeting. So thank you everybody for joining today and keeping everything moving with this grant proposal. Looking forward to getting it into the review process at the Stacks Foundation.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you,
No
Connie.
problem. We'll catch you
Thanks,
later.
Ryan.
Thanks,
You're
Ryan.
welcome. Okay, bye.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a good weekend.
You too.
Bye. Take care.